You're watching Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read. This week we're introducing Living in High Morale, Chardi Kala by Sohan Singh and Jaswant Singh. The edition that we're looking at is the softbound edition, and this was published by Singh Brothers of Amritsar in April of 2018. Regular viewers of Cover to Cover may be thinking they've seen those two author names come up in tandem previously. Well, you'd be right, because a little over a year ago we introduced a book titled Gurbani Gems by the same two authors. That was a previous work of theirs. This particular book, as you can see, although is very similar in their style, is an altogether different format and focuses on this topic of what it means to be Chardi Kala. Now, a book that's written in English is always going to lack some of that concept of Chardi Kala and how it exists. In fact, writing in any medium or explaining through the spoken word or through music or any other medium the concept of Chardi Kala is an incredibly difficult task. It's something that really has to be experienced through trial and error. However, for the purposes of education and sharing our experiences and getting us started with something, books like this are really a good place to start. So let's take a look inside Living in High Morale to see what it is that we get. There is a brief foreword by a peer of the two authors. There is an acknowledgements, few paragraphs by the authors themselves, and then we have all of the work. There are 9 very distinct chapters throughout this book, and each chapter is helpfully split into other parts so that you can jump to exactly which part of a chapter you want to read. The entire work closes with a bibliography which is somewhat limited, but actually a bit of an insight into the authors themselves, as well as a paragraph of congratulations from Team Awat, A Word, A Thought, which is the project run by the two authors. And then there is the briefest of about the authors at the very close of the book. They say never judge a book by its cover, but on this occasion I think we can. Living in High Morale, and as you can see of the image of a person standing atop some form of mountain or cliff face and the sun setting behind them, this is somewhat of a self-help book. It talks throughout the entire book about how to help people deal with the stress of life, not just modern life, but the interactions and social relationships that we have and have had through time immemorial. How to deal with those, how to deal with setbacks and resentments, also how to take joys and celebrations. And what makes this book worth having and reading is the fact that it does so throughout utilizing Gurbani. There are umpteen references to Gurbani in this book, and whilst I'm not a huge fan of taking single lines, couplets, tuqan from the Guru Granth Sahib and presenting them to endorse a fact, it does make works like this an excellent repository for Gurbani, so the casual reader to the dedicated scholar can pick up, read at some point, and be directed or referenced to thinking about something from what the Guru has told us about the art of living. It's probably a little unfair of me to say that they utilize a tok or a couplet or some singular line from the Guru Granth Sahib to endorse a point. They don't actually do that a lot. They use it to indicate a point that's being made rather than justify it or back it up from behind. And their style of writing, hence, is one that's quite open and relaxed, which is perfect for anybody who's trying to read this kind of material and who is looking for ways of bettering themselves. This is still, to a certain extent, an introductory text into what it means to be a Sikh and try to navigate the trials and tribulations of everyday living. It's not going heavily into detail. It's not the kind of text that you will pore over. But that's kind of a good thing. Who wants to spend their entire life trying to work out how to live when you've got your life to actually try and go and live? And I think that's a masterstroke of the two authors. It's in the tradition of the Sikh way of life to not enforce or impose your opinions upon others, but to direct and channel and give your own experiences and then live and let live. This work does follow somewhat of a progression from the earlier chapters throughout to the conclusions. However, it is a book you can dip in and out of as you please. On the face of it, there's a lot of good advice and direction given in this book. Granted, like I think many of the self-help books out there, they are only going to take you so far before you, the individual, has to actually do most of the work. But in connecting everything that they're trying to do with this work with Gurbani, the authors have hit upon a masterstroke. And thus it is a book that I think a lot of Sikhs should consider taking a look at, particularly those people who perhaps don't know very much about the Sikh way of life and want to understand a little bit more from the philosophical side, something that helps you grasp a better handle over the bigger picture. It's also quite helpful for younger people. I'd say particularly teenagers reading this will find that there is a lot there for them to help deal with the complete spectrum of emotions that they go through in puberty and in their early stages of adulthood. But moreover, for any person, who, Sikh or non-Sikh alike, who wants to learn a little bit more about the art of living according to Guru Nanak, this is a great book to pick up and take a look at. But we want to know what you think, so please leave us a comment below. Share your thoughts on Living in High Morale, Chardi Kala by Sohan Singh and Jaswant Singh. Make sure you've subscribed to the Naujwani YouTube channel. That way we'll get to see you here next time on Cover to Cover, our guide to the Sikh and Punjabi books that you need to read.